in line with the relevant provisions of the law, of the Constitution and the law, I, Honorable Barrister Vidieno Muladeno Bameyi, hereby declare Mr. Ajayi Adebowale Oluranti as the duly elected candidate of the IN RETROSPECT.
You're welcome to Puff Television, Mr. Debo Ranti Ajayi.
Well, thank you very much. It's a pleasure to be with you.
It's been a while that we heard from you after the governorship election in Ekiti State in 2022. Would you want to share your experience in the governorship election of 2022, where you were a candidate of one of the parties?
It was a very interesting experience. Of course, my primary goal was to give the people valid options. If they were looking for a non-career politician who is ready to get things done. So we did the best we could, but of course, at the end of the day, the dynamics of electoral politics in Nigeria is such that a lot has to do with your financial muscle background, and of course also running on the platform of a relatively unknown party required a lot of promotion and publicity efforts, and the structure was not strong enough to be able to convince the people that we represent better options for them. So it was a very tedious experience, but I'm thankful that at least we made the people aware as much as possible of the options available to them. But it was a bit also disappointing that the people were not really ready to consider other options, and therefore the dynamics of politics in Nigeria prevailed, even in that Ekiti elections. And the officiating institution, INEC, particularly, also did not play a good role because in many situations, we could not even find the tags for our polling unit officers. Okay, they were just missing. So in many of the polling booths, we were not represented, because our officers could not be identified as required by INEC. So there were a lot of hanky-pankies there, but anyway, we thank God for the experience. At least we learned a lot from it.
Would you say that you were not really prepared for all those shocks, even after you were a commissioner in a government for a while?
Well, actually, I did not go to Ekiti to actually participate in politics. It was the need that I identified on ground, and the fact that I'm convinced that I could help in a lot of ways, and I demonstrated some of that even as a commissioner. But when it comes to the practicality of politicking, campaigning, and all of those, yes, I will say that I probably was not adequately prepared in the sense of the turbulence and the maneuverings. It would have been ideal if I was a candidate of an established party with structures on ground, then it would have been totally different. But to have to be the one to build structure as well as the messaging and strategy and all of that was a bit too much. So I had to make the most of what I could do. So yes, you're right. The preparation level compared to the realities on ground were a bit low.
You spoke about the inadequacies of the party that you joined, but initially you were a member of a strong party, which was the ruling party, APC in Ekiti State. So why did you not channel your aspiration through that party?
Well, it's a long story, but the short of it is that, quite frankly, even that effort I started within that ruling party. But at a point, it became very obvious that due process, democratic process was not going to be followed to come up with a candidate that would best deliver or best fit the needs of Ekiti at the time. And I also saw glaringly efforts by some key players to actually want to bury somebody like myself from being known. Because as at that time, I have a track record of performance in Ekiti. In fact, many of the programs that I initiated for the development of Ekiti are, even as we speak, top priorities in Ekiti till today. But there were people who felt like they wouldn't want me to be prominent, and of course I was not favored by them for whatever personal agenda they had. So I was being buried, and it was critical for me to let Ekiti people know that someone like myself existed or exists, and with passion to lead, with passion to make a remarkable difference in their lives. So the only way that could happen was for me to step out from a main party to this relatively unknown party with a mission and agenda manifesto that align very well with mine. But the weaknesses were there in terms of structure and in terms of financial muscle, okay, to deliver the good product. So I had to leave because of the internal workings. And at the time, the main party was not doing well, even at federal level, to the point that it was becoming embarrassing for me to try to defend or explain some of the poor performances at the federal level. And I thought Nigeria needed a fresh party. In fact, the sentiment on ground at that time also was that the people, Nigerians and even Ekiti people, were looking or desirous of another party aside from the two major ones, even though they did not have the courage, or the will to sustain that desire. Rather they felt condemned or restricted or constrained, whatever the right word is, to only those two choices. Okay, so I was responding to the sentiment that I saw with the people for an alternative outside of the two main parties. And at the same time, I was reacting to the internal issues of the main party that I belong to, so those two main factors led to my exit from the main party.
Well, if you complain about the poor performance of the APC government at the federal level, would you say the same thing of the states where you were operating, that is Ekiti State, and the performance of the government you were in?
Well, the government I was in ended in 2014. Even though the same governor came back in 2018, but I was not part of his administration at the time. In terms of performance, I've not been part of that government or administration. I cannot really speak to specifics, but the general sentiment on ground at the time was that the government of the day was not making any visible impact on the lives of the people. And of course, they could have done a lot better than what was happening at the time. And the insecurity situation at the time was actually causing a lot of agitation, and both at federal and state level accumulated to sentiments among the population that they're really, the government was actually performing way, way below expectations, and poverty was increasing, suffering was increasing in the land, and generally people were disillusioned with that administration. So the expectation was that the people would support viable options that can alleviate those sufferings and bring about a new order in the state.
You were a favorite of that government in its first term. At what point did you fall apart?
Actually, it wasn't really a falling apart as such, because even the second term, I was still a friend of that government, even though I was not active, I was not invited to participate in any way, but I was not exactly publicly antagonizing them. So I wouldn't say it was really a fallout. It was just how would I put it? A gradual pushback, okay, to irrelevance, and I told you maneuverings within the party that would like to bury somebody like myself or lock me up somewhere where people will not get to know me. So I think it was an interplay of personal political ambitions, okay, and the interest to protect and what they had from maybe possible exposure or negative discoveries that may affect their own political agenda, So, it's difficult to go into any specifics, but that's the general trend, okay? You call yourself a friend, but a friend that is kept at a distance, in a cooler, locked up, hidden from being known kind of thing, Occasionally, the leadership will privately consult with me on ideas, but they will never let it be known to their group and their followers that they were consulting with me, you know. So all these things culminated to realizing that, yeah, these people really, they didn't want me in the forefront or active role in their plans.
When you keep using the word they, these people, do you mean there was a gang up within the party against you?
Well, yes, I would say so. But if you ask me specifically who are the individuals, okay, I can only conjecture, okay? But in fact, it has started even in our first administration. Okay, you know, I was a pioneer commissioner for budget. Okay, I used my skills to set up the budget system for the state, to set up the processes, to set up the manpower, okay, the tools, okay, the technological tools for budget system. So when I came in, I drew a lot of attention. Unbeknown to me, of course, I was just trying to perform a role, okay? I came from private sector, so I never worked in public sector. And I never worked in Nigeria. So I had no agenda, I had no understanding of any political anything, but some people were seeing things differently. So my performances, visibility in that government was attracting some negative sentiments among some people, to the point that, you know, there was a gang up to remove me as commissioner for budget, you know, at the earliest opportunity when the governor was reshuffling his cabinet, you know. And I told the governor at that time, I said, look, okay, what you guys have seen and you are excited about that I have done is just the crown of the baby's head. The baby itself has not been born. There's still a lot of grounds to cover. And unfortunately, at least so far as I know, they've never made any significant progress beyond what I set up in the budget function till today. So many of those developments, improvements that I foresee as far back as 2013 are still not actualized, you know? So I was removed, or well, they will not use the word remove, but I was taken from budget again to face new challenges in trade, investments, and innovations. So it started way back then, okay? Plus I'm from the South Senatorial District, okay? So to be visible and doing well and making a lot of impact like that pose a threat to some interests, okay? And so that is part of why, or I would say, why I was probably not favored for the second term. You know, of course, in the primaries of 2018, I participated. That could also have been a factor taken against me.
You were not brought on board in the second term, and the governor had the power to do that. So if you were not brought on board, would you say the governor himself must have been a member of that gang up against you?
His rationalization, okay, and I don't know if I can be public about it, is that I am way beyond state level, okay, in terms of my credentials, in terms of what I have done, delivered in the state, that he will want me at federal level. That was the storyline, okay? But as it turns out, throughout his 4 years as governor, the federal level potential was never realized. Okay? So was he part of the gang up? Was he not? Only God knows that. And I prefer to just let God deal with that.
Yeah, would you think that you took a wrong step joining another party and that perhaps you should have remained in the party and make more efforts?
I don't think so. I don't think so. But I don't know what could have happened. Because as we just discussed, 4 years of second term in APC, I was never employed. I was never engaged. Okay? Even when visions that I established, initiatives that I created, okay, were top priorities. Okay, I was not officially engaged to help out. So I don't know. Only God knows. But whatever I do prayerfully. Okay, and therefore I cannot say I took a wrong turn in exiting that party. I cannot really say that because only God knows what could have happened. I know some may have been saying, oh yeah, if only he had waited, we would have done this, we would have done that. They had 4 years to do that. Of course, mind you, I also served on the board of Federal Medical Center Owerri, which is now Federal Teaching Hospital in Owerri. But that appointment was at the end of the first term. So it wasn't an appointment, even though it played out somewhat overlapping the second term, but it's not an appointment that came from the second term.
Before the advent of John Kayode Fayemi as the governor of Ekiti State, you were not known in Ekiti politics. At what point did you appear in the picture? And how did you appear in the picture?
Oh, okay. Well, you're right. As I told you, I was never really, it was never in my frame of reference that I will ever get into public service or even be in Nigeria for that matter. Governor Fayemi was with me in University of Lagos. He was serving as secretary to me when I was a chairman of Nijoku Hall of Residence at University of Lagos. So that was the first contact. But of course, after I graduated, there was over a decade, no contact between us. By the time I became aware of him, I was visiting Nigeria. And at that time, I was the managing director in a global actuarial firm. I'm an actuary by training, professionally. So I was visiting Nigeria on business, and then some journalists did some interview with me, about 45 of them, okay, because they were excited to see an actuary, a Nigerian actuary visiting Nigeria. So I think Punch did a full-page advert on me, and Governor Fayemi, I believe, saw that, because strangely, he called me. Where are you? Are you coming to Ekiti? I said, of course, I'm in Nigeria. I'll be passing through Ekiti to see my mom, you know, and one thing led to another. I was in his office, and he just hit me with the proposal for me to come and help out in Ekiti and serve as pioneer commissioner to create a budget ministry. And one thing again led to another. Eventually, I accepted. You know, I was naive. I was curious. I was interested in knowing why Nigeria is not working. What can diaspora do to help in Nigeria? I did not know that my actuarial skills were relevant in the public sector at the time. And so everything led to me accepting to become commissioner, okay, for him. And also being the governor and also knowing the amount of respect that he had for me, because back in University of Lagos, I was very active socially and politically. That's how I became chairman, and he was secretary. It was an elected position. And I also ended up to be the first person in the history of University of Lagos to make a first class in a very difficult course, actuarial science. Okay, so all of these combined made a lot of people to have enormous respect for me. So he was looking for credible, respectable, credentialed people that can help out in his administration. So that's how I came in. And when I came in, I was clueless about public service environment. So I had to learn a lot. I had to learn all the ministries, departments, and agencies of government, what their mandates are, the structure, the interrelationships, all of these things I had to capture in setting up a budget system. So there was a lot of learning. But one of the things that I really appreciated was the cooperation of the civil servants, okay? Because first of all, they have not seen a commissioner like myself. Mostly the commissioners they see commissioners with political disposition. But here is a commissioner that is actually working, okay? I will spend time with them in the office, okay? In fact, there are times I'm in the office with them 4 a.m., okay, 4 a.m. I just go home, shower, and come back in the morning. And they were excited because they were learning a lot from me. So this is how I got into public service. At that time, of course, I did not know that as a commissioner, I'm the political leader of my local government. That connection was never made, okay? There was no introduction to enumerate people that, look, this is your son. These are the reasons why I brought him into government, and Debo, these are your people, these are your responsibilities towards them and expectations, blah, blah, blah. And, you know, I was focused more on performing in the role that I was given as a commissioner, okay? So this is how it came about, and I did not really learn a lot of these things until when we were campaigning for re-election in 2014, and we had to go to our local governments. And of course, Ekiti people being honest and transparent people, they listed all my sins, okay, and all the things that I neglected when I was commissioner. The roles I could have played in making sure that Emure is not cheated when it comes to appointments and all of that. So I had to learn all of that. You know, I apologized, and they accepted my apology and worked with me during that re-election campaign. So this is my introduction. This is how I got into governance. And of course, at the end of 2014, having now seen the broken system in Nigeria, why things are not working, and seeing the situation with the people, it was difficult for me to disengage, okay? So just leave Ekiti and come back to my corporate world. So I stayed in Ekiti, even while many of my colleagues that came to serve in that government left Ekiti back to their various residencies or usual residences. I stayed in Ekiti. So from 2014 to 2018, I was resident in Emure, actually, you know, to the surprise of many people, because it was just difficult for me to just disengage, because I was afraid that if I disengage from Ekiti, transitioning back may be very difficult.
Would you say that it was okay that you took the offer of appointment from John Kayode Fayemi, or you would say you regret taking the appointment at that time?
Well, it's with mixed feelings, to be very frank with you, because all the while that I was there, I was away from professional practice and missed out on a lot of changes and advancements and all of that professionally, you know. So it was a huge, huge sacrifice for me to be there. And when I was there without my wife. And of course, I couldn't have been there with my children. So there was also the strain on family relationship while I was there working to add value. So there are regrets in those areas, okay? But in terms of learnings, of course, I really don't have regrets about what I learned, what I became aware of, the relationships also that I gained as a result of that experience. You know, the question remains though, to what end? Okay, because you would have wished to be able to employ those learnings, to be able to translate them into opportunities to add value back to the people, you know. So again, that's still a work in progress. I cannot draw the curtain yet, but yes, I do have some regrets from family relationship point of view, from a professional point of view, from financial point of view, you know, but I'm thankful that I was able to leave lasting legacies, you know, in Ekiti, with setting up of the budget systems and the processes, with coming up with a knowledge-based economic agenda for the state and establishing the path for that to be realized. But I still feel that there's a lot more that can be done in Ekiti.
People of the fountain.